Ready?
No. Hi, everyone. Okay, time for another very spontaneous, not planned, sort of unhinged podcast episode as I sit here tonight while some things are fresh in my mind, but also not having done a lot of preparation here. So here we go. I come to you from Lourdes. As you know, if you listened to my last episode, if you've been reading my blog at all, I have now been in France, out of the country for, what day is it? Like 5.5 weeks since May 23rd, which is crazy. It's crazy that I can say that. Like, it's still odd to me that I'm, like, surreal that I'm living in a different country. Sometimes I see a bunch of green around me. Most of the time, the mountains make it very obvious to me that we're not in Wisconsin anymore. But there are moments when I'm walking and if in a particular flat area, when I forget that I'm halfway across the world. And technology definitely helps a lot with that too, to be able to consistently be in touch with friends and family. If you listen closely right now, you can hear singing outside my window. For the sake of sound quality, I kind of want to shut that window, but also this is a very authentic experience of Lourdes you are hearing right now. So where I'm staying is right next to the end of the Stations of the Cross, and also the beginning of a path to the camping area where a lot of youth and kids are staying. So between like that, so it's kind of like a summer. Oh, here we go. It's taken off. Pretty sure that's French tonight. No. This might be it. One of the African groups. Okay, it's done. Anyways, I frequently hear singing outside my window of some songs of praise in one language or another from groups walking by. It's a busy... There it goes again. Okay, I'm going to shut my window for the sake of still being able to talk to you all. But that is a great taste of life here. As far as volunteering goes, my role is pretty basic. Our primary goal is to just make people feel welcomed and to tell them where they need to go to help them find their way around. So there's that. And that is very different than what I had in mind in some ways, because there are also tons of pilgrims here, tons of people here with major physical disabilities, and just people come here when they're going through a lot. And I thought I might have a bit more opportunity to care for them, but understandably, also a little bit disappointingly, but understandably, disappointingly, is that a word? Anyways, most of the close care for pilgrims, first of all, groups come like as an archdiocese and bring caregivers of their own, sometimes even nurses and doctors of their own. Second of all, there's a massive nationwide, actually global, international group of volunteers called the Hospitaliers that are actually go through formal training and have to commit to 2 weeks here at some point throughout the year as a volunteer. And they are the ones that do a lot more of the direct care for pilgrims that are staying in the lodging. Like, there's lodging here that they work at, serve at, that's almost like a hospital. It's can't necessarily officially call it a hospital, but it feels like a hospital when you walk through it. It has everything, all the amenities you would need as someone incredibly disabled. If that's needed, it's there. So they do a lot of that. They also run the baths, which are not, it's now a hand and face washing ritual with the spring water from Lourdes, which changed because of COVID, but they might keep it that way because it's actually what in the apparitions is recorded that Mary said to Bernadette was to go and wash your hands and face in the spring water. So they might, I'm pretty sure that's going to stick around. It sounds like that's going to stick around, which is a little bit sad, not to have the baths be a thing anymore, but also it's still a powerful experience. So also the hospitaliers are the ones that orchestrate that and get to walk with people through that. So that leaves us to just kind of be greeters. That being said, okay, 2 points. So I'm not necessarily immersed into constantly being around and getting to know people. I would say like developing relationships with people with really, really severe disabilities, physical disabilities. We're all pilgrims. We all have disabilities. That's something said here a lot, and it's very true. But in terms of like the severely disabled, I'm not interacting with them a lot, disabled physically. But so that being said, I would say what I've been most blessed by that I didn't really anticipate or think much about before coming here is the amount of diversity in this space, as you just heard in that music outside my window. This is literally, I'm biased in saying this, but I really also believe it. Like, I don't think there are many other places in the world where you can experience people from so many different countries, from literally everywhere, that come here come here for a common reason as well, seeking healing, seeking strength, seeking beauty. And there is an aspect of solidarity in that, in every pilgrim in that way, and everybody that comes here, because you're seeking something similar. And yeah, I've just been really blessed by that. It's been really hard because my American self anticipated there being, I still imagined a fair amount of Americans here, which is silly now that I think about it, but it's totally not the case. Like, if you go to the English speaking mass, there's daily mass every day, 9 a.m. English speaking. First of all, it's a small mass. And second of all, among the English speakers, there aren't that many Americans. They're out there every day. I meet some for sure. But it's rare. I would say, so among the volunteers, there's one other American who I'm very grateful for, named Sam. She'll be on here someday soon, who's 27 and also in kind of a sort of similar phase of life, and she's here for a while. So that's been a huge gift. And there have been a couple other there's one other American girl here right now as a volunteer, one other older lady that's a volunteer who's been here. So they're out there. But also we're the minority. In terms of English speakers, almost everyone, the majority, a lot of people know English, but when we're talking native English speakers, Americans, not as many as I had in my head. The majority, there's a lot of French, obviously. There's also a ton of Spanish, almost as much, sometimes it seems like more among the pilgrims, among the visitors, Spanish speakers than French, which has been cool and also something I didn't really anticipate. I remember in coming here, I'm like, gosh, it's kind of too bad that I'm feeling a call to somewhere in France and not Spain, because I've spent a lot of time taking Spanish lessons but no French. So that's been cool to have that skill, kind of to be able to use that skill in some ways again, and it really makes me want to develop my Spanish skills more, which is what I've been lately focusing on a bit more than French. Because if I can be good at one of those, it can take you a long way. It can take you pretty far here. But there's also, as you just heard, there's groups from Africa. There's been a few of them that have come through. Indian groups. There was one volunteer from India who left recently. There's a lot of Irish. I know that because they always know I'm Irish, either because they saw my Cotter ring or I just look at. There's one security guard here, side note, who I finally first had a conversation with a couple weeks ago, but he had seen me around and we had some interactions. We just didn't have a ton of time together, but when we finally did, I told him I was American, and he was like, almost like upset by it. He's like, "You're Irish." I'm like, well, I can't believe, like, yes, that is true, but I'm from America. He's like, "You're from Ireland." I'm like, no, I'm very American. But again, 80% Irish, so he's not far off. So that's been cool to form some more connections with my roots in terms of meeting Irish people. But yeah, there was literally all over the world. I met someone today from Kuwait. What else? There have been other volunteers. England, German, Belgium. Yeah, it's insane. And really, it's beautiful in the sense that we're all coming together. I think as a volunteer, that's become like my focus has become more so on connecting with people in ways outside of speaking the language. And so my focus on connecting with people has been through finding creative ways to communicate with people who speak a different language than I am, from a different culture than I am, finding unique ways to communicate and connect with them. That's been more like that's become more the challenge and the life-giving part of being a volunteer, more so than like sharing health stories, although I'm going to get to that in a second. Like that's been a part of it. But as a volunteer, like that's been my favorite part recently. There were a lot of us when I first started volunteering. There was a fairly big group of us and volunteers that knew more languages than I did. So it was hard to feel useful for a little bit. Recently, there's been like 3 of us in volunteering in the department I'm in. So it's provided more opportunity for this. And yeah, what I've found myself liking that is also terrifying, but finding very gratifying is when I'm able to communicate something with either with my broken Spanish or the broken French. I don't really speak it when I'm trying to communicate with French people. It's more so using my hands and like 3 French words and then looking things up on my phone to communicate with French. And then for all the other languages, if they don't know any English, they're not following my body language, I just turn to my phone. But like in Spanish, for example, because that comes up a lot, learning to connect, really striving to connect with people with their native language. It's freaky, and you have to be. There have been many times where, like, in the afterthought, after I had a conversation, I'll think of like the entire sentence I was trying to say in Spanish. I'll like think of it fluently, but in the moment, I could only remember like 2 words because you're just put on the spot. But that's been a really cool skill for me to work on and develop, and it's a thrill when you are able to just a little bit say some words that people can understand in their native language, especially here, because it's so often that people are they're not from here. So that's been fun, and I would say okay, next aspect of this that I was reflecting on today that it stood out to me today and made me think of coming on here. That being said, about not having as much close proximity to pilgrims with severe disabilities, physical disability. That word is even like hard for me to say, but I'm disabled. I'll say it physically. So we're just gonna keep using that. Despite not having as much proximity to that, there has been like a common experience I've felt a commonality with, first of all, the volunteers who have other volunteers that have come here. A lot of them coming here on some sort of sabbatical, some because of health issues, some because of other stuff, to just take a break and kind of gain some perspective and gain some grace for life, for a difficult situation they're in, or just not knowing where their life is going right now, needing a break, and needing a new environment, or a super grace-filled environment to pray in. So that's been a huge gift. There's been a couple volunteers in particular that, in a way that I wasn't expecting, that there's just been a common understanding between us because of that. So that's been huge. I could spend more time on that, but I'm going to, for the rest of this episode today, focus on the few stories that have come up as I'll say the most podcast type conversations I've had when I've actually thought about pulling out my phone and starting recording, although that would be totally inappropriate and I'd probably get kicked out as a volunteer. But conversations I have had as a volunteer among people I've met, where I've experienced the diversity, like I was just explaining, but also where I've experienced the gratification of connecting with someone from a different country, but also they've shared a bit more vulnerably of what brought them there. So I'm going to share 3 stories fairly quick. I hope I can remember them. Okay. First one. Yes, the very first one. That was like, woo, okay, really opening up here. We're diving in. I don't know how these conversations happen, by the way, for what it's worth. I'm just talking to people, asking how they are. And then before we know it, we're talking about major trauma in their lives. That just reminded me of a fourth one. I'm just going to stick with three conversations. Okay, first one was a guy from Australia who was incredibly interesting and dynamic, and there were so many questions I had about his life. The more he shared, the more I was like, who are you? How does someone have so many different things going on in their life that they're involved in? But from what I remember, Australian, he was once a journalist for, he was a journalist for a few different Olympics, he said. He interviewed Olympic medalists, came out a couple times. He also owns a wildlife sanctuary in Australia, apparently. Owns owns. Yep. I was going to say part owner, but whatever. He owns it. And then he also, I do not know how this happened. I learned those 2 things about him, and I don't even remember how this, the chronological order of these things. But at one point he began sharing about as he was sharing more about what brought him to Lourdes, he said he came as a child with his parents, and he felt like he barely remembered his experience with coming with his parents. He was really young, but he felt like there were vivid parts he remembered, and he felt like as he grew into an adult, he felt like he always had to come back here because there was something here that really shaped his experience as a child. And he knew that this place was really important to his parents. So he was on his second trip back when I met him as an adult to kind of his parents have both died, to kind of reconnect with his parents in that way. That was a big part of it for him. Everyone has different reasons for coming here. It's often not it's not always hardcore Catholics coming on a pilgrimage to deepen their relationship with God and Mary. Sometimes it's someone like this guy who, that part was there, but he really, really emphasized doing this to honor his mom and dad. And also somehow began sharing very traumatizing experiences he had as a student at a boarding school. he just finished, apparently had just like a couple weeks ago won a lawsuit against a priest at the school that abused him at one point. So he shared about it a bit, he said that like nowadays he felt proud of the system, and he was confident that nowadays this guy would never have gotten away with what he got away with then. But it took this long for a lot of reasons, and he had mixed feelings about being in Lourdes because of that experience. So he shared those mixed feelings with me about like attention, like I see the beauty of this, but there's also some hurt I've been through. He said he threw it out like almost casually, like I just won this trial because of these experiences I had as a boy, and I cannot really tell you much more about our conversation other than the fact that he said after talking to me, and then after some other experiences he had that day, he knew that this is where he needed to be, and he felt like there was major healing happening. So there's that. Next, this just happened a few days ago with an Irish family. Again, I guess these conversations generally start with me. They generally start with me answering a question about where something is that these people are looking for. Somebody's lost, or lately it's been a lot of questions, or a lot of redirecting people to better working fountains of the spring water, because there's one set of fountains that really doesn't work well, and it's only designed for small bottles. Many people like to bring massive jugs there to fill them up, but that is the wrong set of fountains to fill them up at. There's another set that works a lot better for big jugs. So that's been my role the past few times. The past few days has been telling people that. So that came up with an Irish family. People are either really thankful for me pointing out that there are better fountains for the massive water bottles they're trying to fill at the baby ones, or they're kind of upset because the baby ones are closer to the grotto and people think they're more holy, that the water's more holy there. Well, really, it's all from the same spring. Okay, side note. The other day I was doing this. I guess what happens too is I'll be talking to somebody about one of these little things, and then if they speak English, or I am able to communicate well, I'll ask, "Where are you from?" And so I think that's how this second convo started. And it was with an Irish family, and they were all so cute. And there were two little girls, and then a mom and dad. But they had been to Lourdes a lot, and they're camping out for the summer in Spain, and they just made a trip over here for a few days, which it sounds like is almost an every year thing. And I was like, I'm Irish, and we talked about where they're from and where I'm from, and they asked about my Irish last names and such. And then they were really interested in, I've gotten this a lot as well, actually, like people saying like, how do you become a volunteer? And like, what led you to be a volunteer and such? And so I just explained wanting to spend a more extended period of time in Lourdes. And they were like, what do you do as a volunteer? And like these two little Irish girls were like, you don't get paid? Like, do you get any money for this? And anyways, I don't know, it's interesting to people. So they were asking me questions about that. Eventually the dad was like, okay, they had to go do something. And the mom said, you guys go ahead. I'm going to stay back for a sec. She stayed back to talk to me. And she asked she said, do you pray? Do you pray here every night? There's a procession every night here. So I think she was referring to the procession. Like, do I go there and pray? And I was, I don't go to the procession every night, but I said a lot of times I do, and yes, I pray. And she said, "Will you please pray for my daughter?" Oh, we got the groups coming by my windows again. She said, "Will you please pray for my daughter who my daughter's been experiencing infertility for 2.5 years within her marriage, and she shared a bit about how hard it's been. And she said, will you please include her in your prayers here?" And was like just very intense about it. So I was like, yes, which I will. I definitely will. And then she said, and I'll pray for you too. And then meanwhile, the dad, if I had 3 times by then been like, we gotta go. So it, it wasn't much longer of a conversation, but I said, I have people close to me who have struggled with that. I know that can be really hard and such. So it was a simple moment, but I was grateful that she shared that. And then today, story number 3, I met with a woman who, was from Kuwait who just got here, and she was just exhausted, overtired. And she first asked me about, so another cool part of being a volunteer. Some people don't know at all the story behind Lourdes or anything about it. They just get recommended. They get a recommendation to come here because of it being a big touristy, a popular touristy place, and it's just beautiful. So they come here, but they don't know anything really about the meaning. So she was asking, what do I do here, and asking where different things are, and then eventually, I don't know. She said, I don't know how these things happen, but she started telling me about her flight over, and she said, I went there on the 4th, the morning of the 4th. I was certain that my flight was the morning of the 4th. I had booked everything for that night, accommodations starting on the night of the 4th, and then she got to the airport the morning of the 4th and realized her flight was on the 5th. And then as she was telling me this, she started tearing up, and she said, and in that moment, and she said, someone close to her, really close to her, just gotten in a car accident and had to go back to their home country, which is really far from where she is, because they needed medical, more advanced medical care there. So she hasn't seen this person for a while, and she really cares about this person. And she said, so that's happening, and then this went wrong, and she said, I just feel over and over again, I'm losing at life, and she said, I can't win, and she got here today and was too early to check in. She was able to drop off her luggage, but anyways, she said she got here to the airport here and felt for the first time she wanted something. Gosh, I'm gonna tear up now, because she got here and there was, she just asked a woman where she can find a shuttle to Lourdes, and the woman said, I'll take you, and she offered to pay this woman, and she offered to take the bus instead, and she said, no, please, I'll drive you, just please pray for me when you get there. And she said that was the first win she feels like she's experienced in life for a long time. And then she said in coming here, being at Lourdes as well, she, just in being here, felt like maybe she would, whatever the word she used, this could be a win. This could be the beginning of life, being kind to her. It was her time. She imagined her time at Lourdes being a turning point in that way. So I didn't really have a lot to say to that, but I really thanked her for sharing, and I related. I told her that I guess especially those words that she said about feeling like life is out to get you. I'm just realizing this now, but that is one reason I felt like I needed to take a break and come here as well. When things within the world, it just feels like it's not working. You're not the way you function is not something isn't things are not falling into place the way you want them to, I suppose, is a simple way to say like my perspective of that. So and at the same time, that's some of why I've also been blessed by being here at Lourdes, and seeing that a lot of people, most people's life does not play out as they want it to, and still believing in the beauty that and witnessing the beauty that can come from people that admitting that and coming together and running running to God and believing that there is still healing out there, while being in like a freaking such a beautiful place as well. I think something I've realized since being here is I think I've been really beauty deprived as well, like green space deprived. I love the city so much, but in being here, I've been also just like every day I'm like, what is this? It's so beautiful, and that it's been really good for my soul as well to remember beauty, and the fact that it's very real. So I'm going to stop with that tonight. I think the singing has ended outside my window, so hopefully I can get some sleep. Thank you all for listening. It's been really, really encouraging, and I've just loved. It's been humbling to hear from like how many people are interested in my life here at Lourdes. I'm not saying it's like flocks of them, but just like people taking an interest I'm really grateful for the way that like relationships back home and my community back home can still ground me here in a totally different country. So thanks for that, and stay tuned. God bless. Was almost my least edited episode ever. None of that was edited, but I did forget a few things. First of all, you know this if you're a regular, but follow my blog, ichoosegrit.com. I am updating that most frequently out of everything on my different platforms, which is basically meaning I'm there more than like on social media lately, and I've been doing that, putting more effort into that than podcasting. So go there, ichoosegrit.com, and hit follow. On the right hand side, there's a little button, follow. You can enter in your email, and then you'll automatically get emails whenever I post a new blog. With that, make sure you watch your junk mail though, because sometimes they do go there, and then you miss them. Subscribe here if you have not. Oh, other note on my blog. I didn't realize this until recently, but the email that I had posted on there expired. I canceled a subscription in the new year that I thought was like useless and saving me money by canceling it. But then I also lost my email. So sorry for anybody who's tried contacting me on there. Thank you to, I think Mary, my new friend Mary, not my old friend Mary, but I don't know her last name yet, but I like you. And she told me about that email doesn't work, but now my email does work on there. ichoosegrit@gmail.com. That is my email. ichoosegrit@gmail.com. So do not use Carrie at ichoosegrit.com, which I've mentioned in past episodes. Love hearing from you. Love hearing who's out there. I am also on social media. I never do anything on Facebook, but I do have a page under I Choose Grit, and then Instagram sometimes, also under I Choose Grit. And I think that's it. Bye.